Hello, patrons. Welcome back to another episode of James and Loki's Gems of the Week. This is another special edition of James and Loki's Gems of the Week. It's also an episode of Breakfast with Loki. There's my friend Loki. Will he or won't he eat his breakfast? It's the question on America's mind. Let's grab his breakfast and see. Breakfast. There you go, Loki. Okay, now we get to see if Loki will be moved to go eat his breakfast and earn his treat or not. Let's see if I can incentivize him out. Where's a good piece of treat in here? Sometimes I put little bits of treat in with his food that might incentivize him. Take the height down on the Loki cam some. There you go. So now you have more drama. Will he or won't he eat those couple of pieces of dog food? And I'll share my desktop with you and pick up right where we left off last week with the tweets that I liked, and I'll explain why I liked them. So that was last week's March 18th recorded date episode. And here's the last tweet that I liked. The next one comes from Tesla Stars. Today, this is a shamrock emoji. I start my new job as a professional driver. I'm going to drive my Aldebaran. That's the name of his car for a living. Putting hashtag butts in seats and showing people the awesomeness of Tesla. I'll write hashtag Tesla driver stories to share my experience, follow my journey. Tesla Stars. So it's official. Tesla Stars EURL has been incorporated, so I like that tweet. Next, a tweet from K10. The account that had given me multiple death threats has been suspended. Thank you, Ella G. Irwin. Elon Musk, Twitter support, and my multitude of caring friends, you are the people that make Twitter a better place. Wow. So yeah, death threats, that's a good reason to suspend somebody's Twitter account. Sorry, K10, you had to go through that. Wow. Next, a tweet from Bill Wright, who has an old Justin Timberlake photo as his profile pic. It's going to be May. I remember where I was that night, standing on the cliff of what was about to become an extremely awesome and rewarding ride. What I would give to go back to that night and relive it all again, replying to my thread about the Tesla Model Y unveil. So Bill Wright was there and has fond memories of it. So I like that tweet. Next, a tweet from Jay in Shanghai of the Twitter handle of the same name. Woohoo! Tesla has taken the electric car market in Hong Kong by storm. With a whopping 1,737 registered vehicles in February 2023, Tesla is the top-selling electric car brand in the city. So you can't do better than number one, and that is where Tesla is now in EV sales in Hong Kong. So really good tweet there. That's a small market. I mean, Hong Kong is a big city. It's a major city, but I mean, there's not a lot more to the country than that. So these are big numbers for just one major city. Here's a tweet from Dave Lee, a very sad tweet. R.I.P. His name was Kona, 14 years, fighter till the end. So he got 40,000 likes on this tweet, including mine. Poor Kona. We lost a dog at 14 years as well. So this really touched my heartstrings. We lost our bandit, who looked a little bit like Loki in 2019. August of 2019, he was 14. Next, a tweet from the Kilowatts at KLWTTS. Yeah, just the lightning high voltage sign emoji here. So check out the distance there. I mean, I guess you can see it already, and it doesn't get a lot bigger when I zoom in on it. But wow, yeah. If you want to charge some rival vehicles, you don't back them in because they put their charging port in the front, and man, that does not leave you a lot of spare room between the concrete here and the front bumper of your car. And as you can see, this car is over the line, drawn between parking spaces, so ouch. As the owner of this vehicle, you hope to not have to park your car that close that often. Wow. Next, a tweet from May Musk, Elon's mom. Your grandmother retired at 96 because she was in a wheelchair and couldn't exhibit her art. She then read voraciously until she passed away at 98. No one could tell her to retire. A good example of living a productive and happy life. After Elon replied, retirement age in France is too low. That's a legit issue. Retirement age is 62 in France, I think, where they give you full retirement benefits, government pension, etc. And 62, people, but most people who turn 62 have a lot of life left to live. I'll move on without further comment. Elon tweeted, I walked the production line at Tesla Giga Texas today. Why would he say that? Well, he was replying to SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, employees blame remote work for bank failure. Well, I don't know if it was the remote work that did it, folks. Maybe it was the spending your last $80 billion of cash inflows on long maturity date, low interest rate government securities that then decreased in value to a very low residual value or a very large discount against face value or coupon when interest rates increased by a lot thereafter and the cash inflows to the bank stopped because the economy turned south. Not sure it was the remote work, but good to see Elon in person at Tesla Giga Texas, which is Tesla's headquarters now. Here's a tweet from Neil Kitching. There is hope. 5 years ago, I was told that we'd never have electric buses. Here they are on Glasgow's streets. So, yeah, check it out. Manufactured by Alexander Dennis in Scotland. So, Glasgow, Scotland, with electric buses. You know, China is absolutely swamped with electric buses. All the major cities in China, to my knowledge, are using electric buses to try and attack their horrific pollution problems that they have from all the industrialization that's happened in recent decades in China. The next tweet I liked came from Subluxator with an 8, the number 8 in the handle. Ignore the data, here are some anecdotes instead. That's what a clown would say. It's what's in this tweet. What's he replying to here? Well, we'll scroll up. So I tweeted, some people believe Tesla has a demand problem in Europe. Meanwhile, Europe.autonews.com quietly, and I mean very quietly, reported this list of the top 10 premium BEVs sold in Europe in 2022. Tesla outsold the 3rd through 10th place finishers combined in the premium category. Now, there is another category, the non-premium category, they call the volume category. That's where you'll find the Volkswagen ID3 and ID4. They don't call those premium vehicles. Model Y and Model 3 did outsell the ID3 and the ID4, but not by the same whopping margins that they outsold the Polestar, the e-tron, the iX, the i4, the EQA, etc., the other premium BEVs in Europe. So, Polity Reality, longtime Tesla hater, longtime Tesla Q member, and troll, replied, I'm in Europe, and they have a major brand and demand problem from the people I have spoken to. BYD/others have arrived, and Tesla is considered just too expensive. And many are looking at some amazing alternatives at all price points. But sit in your echo chamber and read reports. What good is your data against my anecdotes that I could have made up? So that's exactly what Subluxator replied with. Ignore the data, here are some anecdotes instead. Let's not, yeah, let's not believe Europe.autonews.com, who would love nothing more than to say Tesla is losing in Europe, reporting that their data shows Tesla winning in Europe by a huge margin. Let's throw that report out and just go with what I'm telling you I've heard people say, that Teslas are too expensive. Well, if they're too expensive, how are they the number one and the number two selling vehicle, right? If there's a critical problem with Tesla's sales strategy, how are they number one and number two in sales? As far as I know, you can't do better than number one and number two in sales, no matter what. That's the best you can do. Lars, just like Cybertruck, tweet from Technostic at TechGNOSTIK on Twitter. This is a link to Investor Day. Now, why would I like that tweet? Let's scroll up here and look. So I replied, how's the Cybertruck line looking? Hoping to get a reply from Elon. And Technostic wanted to reply asking, and is it a line or a number of modular stations? So, normally, traditionally, the way you make a car is you run them down an assembly line. But Technostic pointed out correctly here that at Investor Day, Lars talked about a different way of manufacturing vehicles. And he did end his presentation saying, just like Cybertruck, I said, or is it both? So are there lines and workstations? I imagine that is what it is. But let's see if we can get just this piece in.
Putting the sides on with all of their parts to a front and rear that was already assembled, carrying the floor in with the seats, and finally boxing it out with the doors one time, just like Cybertruck.
Yeah, you couldn't have missed right there at the end. Lars said just like Cybertruck. So the animation that you just saw may be exactly how Tesla intends to build Cybertruck. Okay, back we'll go, and up. Elon Musk tweeted, provided there is no serious launch anomaly, SpaceX will deliver 80% of Earth's payload to orbit this year, not counting Starship. So, at one point in time, the amazing stat was that SpaceX was putting more cargo into orbit than any other company or state sponsor of spaceflight. So more than any government and more than any company. Now the incredible number, since SpaceX has continued delivering more and more payload to orbit, is that SpaceX is delivering 4 out of every 5 things going to orbit this year. Now, Elon's probably measuring by mass rather than by unit count, because that would be the smart way of doing it. So yeah, SpaceX delivering 80% of Earth's payload to orbit by mass this year. Not counting Starship, so before they even get Starship running, even with just Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9, SpaceX is already delivering 4/5 of the space-bound payload from our planet. And then Starship is going to further increase this to 90% and beyond, probably. Next, a tweet from Farzad Misbahi. Very few understand that Tesla has already secured 10 million production per year already in 2023. So how does he get there? Fremont. 650,000 is probably the most Fremont can do. Shanghai 2 million. Now, we don't see Shanghai currently at a 2 million run rate. So what Farzad's talking about here is that there's room for Tesla to expand in Shanghai to 2 million vehicles per year, probably, and make this their export hub to the rest of the world. Berlin, 1 million. So they're already at a 5,000 per week production rate. They're probably going to double that in their current facility, and they have plans to expand to another building. So, so Tesla has already secured. Not all of these factories are built yet, but there are places for all of these factories to go. Austin, 2 million. Yeah, Austin will be able to expand to 2 million. They won't put 2 million out of their current building, but they keep building more and are going to for years to come. Mexico, 2 million. Yeah, the factory footprints are getting smaller relative to the production output of the factory. Tesla talked to us about that, not just for battery cell production, which Tesla needs to do a lot more of, but also for, efficiency on the automotive assembly line production floor. So, yeah, Mexico can do 2 million. And then, will there be a parallel Mexico facility doing 2 million? If there is, then that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.65. That's close enough to 10 million. Tesla needs to announce 5 more factories, each producing 2 million, to secure 20 million by 2030. Not 10 million, not 10 gigafactories, not 15 gigafactories. We don't need to hear about a dozen more gigafactories. We need to hear about half a dozen more gigafactories after this set. And every time I see something like this, it reminds me that I need to go update my forecast model, which is going to be a chore and a half, trying to get all these new factories and models in place. But it has to be done, so I will have to do it. Next, a tweet from Technostic. Look, I can cherry pick markets too. What are we talking about here? Another tweet for Technostic. This was TR at tweet_removed, longtime Tesla hater, skeptic, troll, Tesla Q member. Same data shows Tesla grew 36% year over year, while the rest of this premium BEV segment grew 67%. Doesn't help that the Model 3 fell 35% year over year either. Well, who's cherry picking now? You're gonna mention that Model 3 fell 35%, but you're not gonna mention Model Y grew by 418% from 26,000 to 137,819. So the net of these two is growth. You can see it right here of 61,000 combined. Model Y and Model 3 year over year. Yeah, Model Y decreased from 142 to 92, but Model Y increased from 26 to 137. That's up 111,000 or 418%. Like I just said, Model Y alone grew by more than 100,000 units. The third through 10th best selling premium BEVs combined grew by less than 100,000 units. So if you add all of these up, you'll get to, 5, 25, 50, 60, 75, 88, 93. You get 93,000 worth of growth here against Model Y alone growing by 111,000. So Anthony Smith replied, Model 3 should have been a Model Y initially. Mistake to not have it as a hatchback and slightly larger, but Tesla were fighting for survival at the time. Model Y is a huge success as a family car now. Technostic said, hard to disagree. I've owned 2 Model 3s. I prefer it over the Model Y myself. Though the Y is a fantastic fit for a lot of people, Tesla still sells a ton of Model 3s globally. It was the number 7 highest volume seller globally of any kind of car in 2022. So Model 3 is not some loser that has fallen into the dregs of also-rans. It's a top 10 vehicle of any kind globally, right? Model 3 is a better looking car in my opinion, by all accounts, handles better, just saying the Model Y has a larger total addressable market. and satisfies a lot of the original intent for Model 3. Of course, Model 3 is a legendary car. They just couldn't make a Model Y affordable enough or efficient enough at the time, in my opinion. Pardon me gulping down my coffee. Technostic says, yes, Model Y has a much larger TAM. It's a fantastic vehicle. My boomer parents bought one last year. But the Model 3 stands on its own feet still, not nearly as much cannibalization from the Y as many people thought. So TR jumps back in here, then why did Model 3 sales fall so precipitously despite price cuts? And Technostic says, look, I can cherry pick markets too. Top selling sedans in the United States for 2022. Hey, look, here's the Tesla Model 3, selling 198,200 Model 3s in the US last year, up 45%. So, in order to be up by 45%, the US increased their Model 3 sales by more than Europe decreased by year over year. So, global sales of Model 3 continue to increase. So I liked that. And yeah, TR came back with, and I did the cherry picking here. Yeah, I did the cherry picking by just telling you what Europe.automotivenews.com published. That's me cherry picking a full year number for all electric vehicles. Why don't you show us with verifiable global data how Model 3 sales fell precipitously? And he doesn't want to talk about that at all. The discussion is about the data James showed. Not sure why you can't grasp that. Adios. So TR is looking for the exit as quickly as possible so as to not have to answer the question about how Model 3 sales are up globally. Notice that you responded to me. I was talking to Anthony, not you, but here's something for you to grasp. Global data is the only data that matters in the end with a global company like Tesla. Adios, Tesla Q. Yeah, so I'm going to like that tweet too, even though it's, at this point, a 6-day-old tweet. Maybe I'll just reply on the air as well, right here, and say, Alright, so I don't normally reply to a tweet during James and Loki's Gems of the Week, but here's one. I thought you'd be happy to have a discussion about global Model 3 sales, TR. No? You'd rather cherry pick? Yeah, or just make your way to the exit as quickly as possible. Alright, let's put a laughing emoji here at the end so everybody knows how amused I am. And I'll hit reply. Okay, and because I'm a Twitter Blue subscriber, it gives me a chance to read that and undo it. Alright, I'm happy with that. And I'll back out of here, and we'll continue with the tour. What's the next tweet that I liked? Well, it came from RK at RMCKRK, tagging Tesla Boomer Mama, Herbert Ong, and Farziness, who we recently saw, Farzad, retweeting Sawyer Merritt saying, breaking, Moody's has officially upgraded Tesla to an investment grade rating for the first time ever. Tesla's rating is now Baa3 from Ba1. So Baa3 is investment grade, and Ba1 isn't. Moody's. Tesla will maintain its position as one of the leading manufacturers of EVs. So that's great. Moody's finally, a year and a half late at least, upgrades Tesla to investment grade. They probably could have done this upgrade 2.5 years ago, but they finally got around to it, and good for them. Next, a tweet from Amy at SF ___ Tahoe. Tesla said at Investor Day that the demand for Tesla vehicles was strong. Tesla said at Q4 22 earnings call demand was double production. Now many are still surprised as Tesla sales are strong in Europe, China, the US as competition falters. Yeah, I mean they're trying to tell us the demand is stronger than it's ever been before. But the trolls and the haters and the skeptics and the critics and the Tesla Q, generalissimos, need to keep the narrative running of the holy triumvirate of dogmatic Tesla Q beliefs. There's demand cliff coming, competition is coming, and the backlog is gone. That's the message they have to promote. At least through the first month of every quarter, they have to claim that. And then as you get halfway through the last month of the quarter, you stop talking about that for the current quarter because the numbers are about to be released and they'll make you look silly quickly instead of slowly, like always. But then, they don't want to hear about old tweets. If you correct them on something from 2019 they were wrong about, then they'll say that that's all you have to criticize them with. So what does Chen Su Bion say here? Tesla's demand is, sorry for mispronouncing your name, Chen Su. Tesla's demand in China times you. We generated a huge demand, more than we can produce. Last few weeks of March will be epic in China, and we're seeing that, I think. Not long to wait now before Tesla reveals their Q1 production and delivery numbers. That ought to come on April the 2nd around noon. Regardless what day of the week it is, Tesla will report around noon on the 2nd of the new quarter. So here's a tweet from Alan at Alan91524744. Spot the patterns. What's he replying to here? Some other people in this thread. Tesla doesn't have a demand problem. It gives other automakers one. Emmanuel Raphael took exception to that. Then why reduce the price by 20%? Why couldn't you keep both the high demand and the high profits? You're on the risk of ruining future growth for short-term growth. Because they prioritize volume over margins. As they rapidly scale volumes, costs come down due to mass production, giving them more room to price lower and unlock higher demand tiers. Wright's Law in action. ARC's workings of Wright's Law in the automotive industry is Ford Motor. ARC spends a lot of time showing how Ford's production costs have adhered to the law, but Ford today is not an enormously profitable company with huge gross margins, so why is Tesla different? Because Ford is at the end of the ICE technology's life cycle. Most of the gains have already been achieved. Meanwhile, Tesla is leading the EV technology disruption, which is at its early stages of scale and growth. Just the usual trend with disruptions. So a bunch of exhibits here that I should show you very quickly without discussing them, because I need to keep the pace of this video moving. And Axel Roll replied, Tesla is leading nothing but crap cars manufacturing. Should get the award the lowest build quality and worst customer service. Alan replied, that's indeed the argument from the legacy shills that are insecure about their lazy jobs. But the fact that Tesla now globally outsells German automakers combined tells us customers are smarter than that. And it's not only Tesla. Volkswagen has fallen to number 3 behind BYD and soon SAIC. All German automakers combined sold less than 1 million EVs last year. BYD sold slightly more than all German automakers combined. And Tesla, of course, sold more than 1.2 million last year. And this year will sell something like 2 million EVs. Axel asked how many cars sold worldwide. Alan said, how many horse carriages were sold in the 1900s? How many were sold in the 1910s? Again, short-sighted thinking. Look ahead in a few years, not what's for breakfast. So this is the old example. Where is the car? There it is. There's the car. Everything else is a horse-drawn carriage in 1900. Then in 1913, 13 short years later, where is the horse? Every single one of these cars is in a motor vehicle, a horseless carriage, except this one. There's the one horse left 13 years later. So that's how rapidly disruption happens in industries. And the Spot the Patterns here featured my little chart from last year, 2022 US light vehicle sales versus 2021. Tesla was way up. Everybody else was down except for General Motors, that was up 3% over a pretty terrible 2021 for them with chip shortages. Here's another one. Yeah, this is revenue. I've done this chart before myself. This one came from Y Charts. So you've got revenue at the top here. Ford and GM pretty much flat over the past 10 years, whereas Tesla's revenue has been growing exponentially over that time. Now, nearly half the revenue being made by Ford and GM, despite selling way less than half the units Ford and GM sell. And this one is net income. So what's the red line? The red line is Tesla. Tesla's net income keeps going up. What's the blue line? The blue line is Ford. Ford had an okay start to 2022, and then things went very badly indeed. Yeah. Not sure I'm a huge fan of the way this chart is presented, but props to Charlie Bolello for putting that out. Quarterly BEV market share per country. These are the European countries. Norway, you can see, is way ahead on the disruption of EVs from fossil fuel vehicles. They're up over 80% electric vehicles sold every year in Norway already due to some government incentives that make it expensive for you to buy a fossil fuel vehicle in Norway and pretty affordable to buy an EV. But the other countries are following the same trend. They were all very low in 2017, 2018, and now they're all over 10%, with the exception of a few. There's like 3 countries that are down here, and the rest of them are between 10 and 50% EV adoption already. And the trend is unmistakably up and to the right. Here's a bunch of total sales. Oh, so what you want to focus on here are the percentages year over year. The Corolla was down, the RAV4 was down, the Ford F-Series was down, the Model Y was up almost 90%, Camry down, CR-V down, Silverado up 1.8%, Hyundai Tucson up 0.4%, Toyota Hilux, this looks like a Toyota pickup to me, maybe a 4Runner, plus 3.9%. In some markets, they're going to call that the Toyota Hilux, and the Ram pickup down 15%. So that's how sales are going. So I like that tweet. I was the only person to like that tweet because I got a notification on it since I was being replied to. Next, a tweet from Holmar's Catalog. Journalist, can I use your product to do my daily drives? Waymo, Cruise, Zoox, etc. No. All the companies that are using LiDAR will not let you buy one of their cars to do your driving to and from work, to and from your grocery store, to and from whatever errands you would like to run. You're not allowed to buy one of their cars and always have it available, ready to go to take you wherever you want to go. Tesla says yes. Yes, you can buy a Tesla and use that Tesla to do your daily drives. The journalist asks, can I buy your product at all? Waymo, Cruise, Zoox, etc. say no. Tesla says yes. What's the journalist say? Wow, Waymo is so far ahead. Oh yeah. Yeah, they're so far ahead. In Chandler, Arizona, where the weather is always nice, the streets are broad, and meet at perpendicular angles, predictably. And there's traffic lights everywhere. It's not a mistake that Waymo chose Chandler, Arizona to do their LiDAR high definition, exhaustively mapped approach to autonomy. You know where that approach isn't going to work? Other places. Real life is messy and idiosyncratic. Chandler, Arizona is as close to a simulation, a simulated driving environment as you will find in the real world. So that's where Waymo and Cruise, one of those is. Maybe it's Cruise that's in Chandler. But yeah, Waymo, I think, is the one that has overnight hours of operation in San Francisco. So if it's between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. when there's no traffic on the roads in the city limits of San Francisco, you can hail a low-speed driverless vehicle to come pick you up from the bar and drive you home. Which I'm not criticizing them for offering that service. I'm just calling out the limitations of it. Next is a tweet from Mayor Tacker. I'm going to get his last name right. I had to ask Mayor how his name is pronounced because he introduced himself in a video as Meyer Thacker. And I thought he had told me previously that that isn't how his name is pronounced. So I asked him again, and he said, yeah, you're right, it is Mayor. My family calls me Mayor. And it's Tacker. That's what it is. Tacker is how they pronounce the last name. So don't believe him when he pronounces his name Meyer Thacker. It's actually Mayor Tacker. That's right. Okay, James, from now on, just reply to all of Brad's comments at you with a single chart showing Tesla's revenue, profit, and delivery since, I don't know, the beginning of time? No further commentary needed. So, just trying to give me some advice on how to deal with this idiot, Brad Munkin, who I've been talking to on Twitter for a long time. He's been a Tesla hater and troll and condescending car industry expert the entire time. He's been as wrong as he can be. He's still just as wrong as he's always been, predicting every year that Tesla's going to report a loss, including this year. He predicted in December that Tesla was going to report a loss in 2023. That is how disconnected from reality Brad Munkin is. But that doesn't stop him from sending out tweets like this one. Interesting how this clown won't let anyone reply to his moronic tweets about Tesla anymore. And then he tags his buddy, eRiz35, to make sure he sees this retweet. What was he talking about? This is my video. Every year, Tesla detractors, critics, haters, and short sellers predict a demand cliff caused by the backlog being gone and the competition coming. So far, they've been wrong every year. Here's how wrong they were about 2022 demand in Europe. So I got a lot of interaction on this. I didn't notice when I sent the tweet that it was still set to only people I follow can reply. I didn't actually notice that that had happened because Twitter doesn't prompt you and tell you, hey, you're only going to let people you follow reply to this. It just sends the tweet until I saw Motorhead's retweet of me. So at that point, I turned it off and allowed anybody to reply who wants to. And you'll see that there are some haters in the comments here. Here's the Loki Spot account. Somebody created a Loki Spot account on Twitter. Hey, James, I'm hungry. To which I replied, you know you get 3 square meals a day whether you eat them right away or not, Lokinator. There he is. And here he is, over here. Hi, Loki. Did you ever eat your couple of kibbles? Let me put some more kibbles over here for you to eat. There. Let's see if you'll eat those. And I promised you some haters. Yeah, here's one. Yeah, here's one. PP100D, and every year James believes there will be Tesla's robo-taxis on the road because Musk has said so, LOL. Well, not every year. So, no, I've never put in any robo-taxi revenue into my forecast, so I can call that fully busted. That's 100% Pinocchio. I've never had any robo-taxi revenue in my forecast. I have had the expectation that FSD revenue is going to increase, and I have had to push that revenue out farther in my forecast as Tesla continues not having a product good enough to earn all that additional revenue yet. My expectation is that one day they will. And there's a fail from Tesla Q. Okay, so I'll go back and show you my reply. Veteran Tesla short seller since 2019. Tesla won't sell more than 40,000 vehicles per year in China. Brad really said this. Clown who sends moronic tweets, that's what Brad calls me. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but I disagree. What am I talking about? It's a screenshot from Brad telling me on October 14th, 2019, yes, telling me personally, directly, it doesn't help until they get 80% locally sourced components in China. And I believe the last 10Q said $2 billion adjusted for June end renminbi per dollar. This is the Chinese abbreviation for money, or literally translated the people's money. One other thing to consider, there's little demand for the Model 3 in China at current prices, averaging 2,500 units per month. No profits if they lower prices. So I replied, you think Model 3 demand in China will forever be 2,500 units per month? I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but I disagree. And he said, since March, first month of supply, Model 3 in China has only sold 3,200 per month on average. Wouldn't you consider that weak versus the US/EU? How will it sell more than that aside from a big price cut? I'm estimating they need to drop the price to $35,000 including taxes, so $30,000 of revenue to Tesla. Factory price is what he called that, after paying the tax. So no, Tesla never reduced the price anywhere close to $30,000. These sales were from imported Model 3s that cost way more than locally produced Model 3s exempt from tariffs, right? Which is the whole strategy for why you would build a factory in China, to avoid the tariffs. So you can sell into that local market the same as local companies do without being taxed and making your car price uncompetitive. So yeah, that's what he said. He said Tesla wouldn't sell more than 3,200 units per month, which if I multiply that by 12, I get about 40,000 units, which is why I said veteran Tesla short seller since 2019, meaning someone who's had their face ripped off repeatedly trying to sell Tesla short. Tesla won't sell more than 40,000 vehicles per year in China. Tesla now routinely sells more than 40,000 vehicles per month in China. Per month, not per year. So only selling Teslas at about 12 times the rate Brad expected they would ever be able to sell at. So that's where Mayor's comment comes in. Next, a tweet from Bradford Ferguson, friend of the show and executive producer of this channel. Tesla's secret complex in Lathrop, California, hashtag Megapactory. In this video, San Joaquin Valley Tesla and I, this is Joe, go over hashtag Tesla sprawling campus in Lathrop, California. What is the purpose of the various buildings? Why is Lathrop such a good location for logistics and workforce? So really good video here if you haven't gone and checked this out, sharing a Google Maps overview and some drone flyover video of the multiple facilities Tesla is operating in Lathrop, California, not just the Megapack building, but some other stuff there, informative stuff if you haven't seen it. Next, a tweet from Tavi at Tavi_ChocoChip. What EVs are Europeans buying? Better yet, what cars are they buying? And what are Tesla's prospects in this market dominated by German and French automakers? A thread on how Tesla is changing car buyers' behavior to its benefit. I'm just so happy that the mouse-overs bailed me out on not knowing what these flags were. I apologize to everyone in Germany and France for not knowing what your tricolor flags are on site. I'm an American, and I was not taught that in school. First, the top 50 best-selling BEV models in 2022. You may need to know that on a daily basis, but here in the United States, there is not a huge penalty for not knowing how to identify on site every European country's flag. So I'm just digging the hole deeper, aren't I? All right, top 50 best-selling BEV models in Europe in 2022. Tavi Choco Chip found the full list, which is pretty great. So if I leave it in this view, what you'll see is the Tesla Model 3 at the top of the list, selling 91,475. We just saw that number, so I like that it's the same number from this source. But if I click it, you'll see that above it is the Tesla Model Y, selling 137,052 units, which I believe is the same number we saw on the Europe.autonews.com source. So yeah, check it out. Number 1 and number 2, Tesla Model Ys. What's next on the list? VW ID4, Fiat 500, VW ID3, Skoda Enyaq, Dacia Spring, Peugeot 208, Hyundai Kona, Kia Niro, Hyundai Ioniq, Renault Zoe, Mini Hatch, Renault Megane, Cupra Born, and then you finally get to one, the Polestar 2, that's a premium vehicle. So the number 1 seller is a premium vehicle, the number 2 seller is a premium vehicle. Then you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 vehicles before you get to a Polestar 2 in 16th place overall, if I haven't lost count. That's a premium vehicle. Yeah, so is Tesla doing okay competing in Europe in the premium BEV segment? Yes, they are dominating. So don't believe the idiots who tell you that Tesla has a demand cliff in Europe. Tesla is way out in front as the number 1 selling premium electric vehicle in Europe. And those trends don't change overnight. They don't change quickly, right? There are reasons why Tesla sold so many in 2022, and nothing has changed materially between 2022 and 2023 that will cause some other premium EV to start outselling Tesla, right? Everman tweeted, "Happy to celebrate my 10-year investing anniversary in Tesla. What a ride." With the visual here being over the past 10 years. So how has the Tesla stock done? Well, it's up $194.86 to $197.83, an increase of 7,714.33%. So that was a good purchase back here in early 2013. I didn't manage to get in to Tesla stock until 2014. So right around here is where I started investing, mostly in Tesla. Next, a tweet here from the Short Shorts historian at Tesla Historian. "This day in Tesla Q history, too bad this guy is not in Twitter anymore. Could have used some of that first-class analysis and info." So what's the screenshot say? Camel Res 1. Someone from Tesla Q mentioned earlier bulls don't even deserve free access to all the first-class analysis and info presented by Tesla Q. I couldn't agree more. Yes, first-class analysis and info from Tesla Q. Yeah, they really, really knew their stuff back in 2019. March of 2019, when Tesla was trading for, less than $15 after adjusting for splits. The next tweet I liked came from James Catt at TeslaFanMTL on Twitter. "It's all playing out the way Tesla bulls predicted. Legacy is hemorrhaging cash by trying to build/sell EVs, while their ICE businesses lose volume and market share to Tesla. And it's only going to get worse as Tesla keeps expanding production and launching new models." So I was one of the 1,185 likes on that tweet from James Catt here, who followed up giving more specifics on what he's referencing. The Ford numbers are shockingly bad. Shockingly bad. So I replied to that, didn't I? Yes, and I said, and at the same time, about what we would have guessed given how far below break even volume they are. So the lower your gross margin is, the higher the number of units is you need to produce before you can break even against your fixed cost base. Larry Goldberg replied to me, but James, the numbers are shocking, as Tesla fan MTL says. The loss per vehicle far exceeds anything imaginable. I mean, what did they put into those cars? The numbers completely eclipse losses in the Roadsters and first model S and X production. What's going on at Ford? And I replied, there's nothing to stop enormous Ford losses if the variable gross margin was thin to begin with and actual output volume is well below a high break-even production number. You know, if you study Porter's Five Forces, which they teach you in MBA school, the auto industry is listed as one of the examples of the toughest industries to try to start a company. You need an enormous amount of money to have a shot at establishing a successful automaker, because it's so expensive to build a factory, to design a better car than other automakers are already making. It's such a competitive industry to begin with. People have been making cars for over 100 years, right? And they've got a pretty solid product already, right? So it's going to be expensive for you to be able to design a better one. Then you got to hire an enormous amount of people and set up contracts with a ton of suppliers. You got to do some mix of those last two things. You either have to do it yourself or you have to have somebody else do it for you and be able to rely on them to deliver, because if any of the components needed to sell a car don't arrive to your loading dock at your factory, you can't produce cars until you have that part, right? So there's all these challenges to setting up a successful automaker, and those costs are very large. So if you want to be able to recoup the hundreds of millions of dollars you're going to have to spend to be successful as an automaker, you're going to have to produce at minimum hundreds of thousands of cars at a really decent gross margin to be able to have made and sold enough of them to pay back that upfront cost of investing and hiring and operating your facilities, right? So Larry says, James, as best I can tell, their variable gross margin is negative. To which I replied, well, that is not what you want. It's a terrible idea to try producing a product that has a negative variable gross margin, meaning you're selling it for less than it cost you to make on a marginal basis. So each time you have to make one more unit, the cost of making that one more unit is more than the amount you're planning to sell it for. That's a terrible business. You ought to be able to see that immediately without needing an MBA. Also, it just occurred to me that lying to Elon Musk about the original Tesla Roadster having a positive variable gross margin when it was actually negative, and ordering others to withhold the truth from Elon, is what finally got Martin Eberhard fired as CEO of Tesla. So Tesla was in the same position that Ford is in today. When Martin Eberhard was running Tesla, making only the original Roadster, its variable cost of production was higher than the amount they were charging for it. And Larry replied, correct. I remember reading Elon's fiery blog posts when he discovered that mess and the antics that hid them from the board. He's never been as upset publicly as that, and reading it, I thought that he would likely pull the plug on the whole company. The subsequent events taught me about Elon. So yeah, I mean, this is as serious a problem as you can have in a company, right? You have no hope of making any profit ever if you're selling stuff for less than it costs you to make on a variable basis. I chased that with, and then Elon was forced to go back to all the original Roadster reservation holders and raise the price on them and explain why he just couldn't sell them at a marginal unit loss because that's no way to run a business. And Stephen Spencer replied here, Elon's financial discipline is not fully appreciated. Glad he went through the internet bubble and the great financial crisis. They taught him a lot of lessons. Did I reply to this? Larry did, saying that financial discipline is what makes Elon Musk the finest CEO alive today and perhaps in history. His sense of risk management while growing at breakneck pace, some of the riskiest businesses on Earth. Yeah, pretty amazing, Elon. There's been a lot of great CEOs, but Elon may be right up at the top of the list. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but he fully understands the companies that he runs, despite being an extremely busy person. Just enormous capacity from him. Let me hit back one more time. Okay, good. And we've already seen some of the tweets that I'm going to like, so I'll just skip them when I get to them because we saw them in order. Here's one from Forward Cap. With today's disclosures from Ford, we can now compare EV profitability between a legacy OEM and Tesla, excluding credits, during similar volume sales 2015 to 2016 and present day Ford versus Tesla. So this is big enough I don't have to make it any bigger, I think. Can you see that okay? Yeah, you can see that. Great. Units sold 61,000 in 2021, 96,000 in 2022. This is what Ford has been reporting. With revenue growing 71% from $3.1 billion to $5.3 billion, but the EV EBIT, the electric vehicle earnings before income taxes, a loss of $0.9 billion in 2021 that grew to a loss of $2.1 billion in 2022, 133% increase in the loss. Folks, that is not what you want. Then the EV EBIT margin percent was a loss of 28% on every dollar worth of EV revenue that grew to a loss of 41% in 2022 on higher revenue. That ain't good. That is not good. So here's Tesla on similar EV volumes as Ford. From 2015 to 2016, Tesla grew sales from 51,000 to 76,000. So the unit sales were up 49%. That's similar. The automotive revenue was up 69%. That's similar. These numbers do pop up. The more numbers you look at, the more often you're going to see a 69 and a 420. And the EV EBIT here for Tesla only grew 10% from negative 0.9 to negative 1 as they were ramping up production from 51,000 to 76,000 vehicles. So Ford actually had a lot more vehicles produced than Tesla did in this year. So EBIT margin excluding credits for Tesla improved from negative 25% to only negative 16%. So this is progress. You would rather see the negative numbers getting smaller than the negative numbers getting bigger. So that's an 875 basis point improvement is how a financial executive would explain that on an earnings call. But if you look at Tesla in the same time period, 2021 and 2022, which is fair, folks. Ford had plenty of warning. They could have been making EVs earlier, and they chose not to, right? Units sold for Tesla grew from 936,000 to 1.3 million in 2022. Revenue grew from 52 billion to 79.7 billion, up 52%. EBIT grew from 5.1 billion to 11.9 billion, a 135% increase in EBIT compared to a 52% increase in revenue. This is what you want. You want to see operating leverage helping you become more profitable at scale as your scale improves. And EBIT margin growing from 9.7% to 14.9%. This is world class for any kind of vehicle, not just for EVs. up 525 basis points. So really good tweet there from Forward Cap. Next tweet from Tesla Economist. This doesn't look like competition. This is a tweet from Chipadelphia. I've never seen that account before, I don't think. But I did like that tweet. Scaling EV manufacturing is hard is the title here. I realize you can't read that, so let me just X out of this for a second and show you what the labels are here before I make it big enough for you to read the numbers. So you've got the total business, revenue, gross profit, EBIT, EBIT margin. This is what Ford provided us with, so that's what everybody's comparing. With the EV business down here, EV deliveries, revenue, gross profit, EBIT, and profit or loss down here at the bottom. We only have one positive number here, and that's the Tesla 2022 number. Tesla back in Q2 of 17 over the 12 trailing months was the most similar volume time period found by Chipadelphia, 94,000 EV deliveries versus Ford's 96,000. So I'll click on this again so you can see the numbers a little bit bigger. And I'll just walk you down this comparison. So revenue, well, these are really hard to compare, aren't they? EV business is what we need to be comparing instead of total business. So EV revenue, Tesla made way more revenue selling at higher ASPs back in 2017. Now, very few Model 3s would have been in the 12 trailing months of Q2 17. So this is mostly S and X that Tesla was selling over that time period. That accounts for this big revenue increase. EV gross profit, Ford did not disclose, but Tesla's was a 27% gross margin. That's pretty good. You can't do a lot better than a 27% gross margin. And the EV EBIT for Tesla was a loss of $335 million. For Ford, it was a loss of $2.1 billion in 2022 and $900 million-ish in 2021. So they rounded that number. So Tesla's EBIT margin was only low single digits, losing 3.8%, whereas Ford has gone from losing 28.8% at the EBIT line to 40.6%. They are not paying taxes on this. This is giving them tax relief as a loss. So they owe less taxes by virtue of how much money they're losing trying to sell EVs. Making a profit or loss per EV, in Tesla's case, of only $3,500, whereas for Ford, they were losing about $15,000, and that increased to a loss of about $22,000. Not great. What do we have over here? Beside it, we have Rivian and Lucid. Rivian losing $337,000 per EV they sell, and Lucid unbelievably topping their horrific number by losing $593,000 per EV sold. Wow, that's pretty bad. So, yeah, I like this tweet. Now they're at very low volumes. This is what I mean when I say if you're way below break even and if your gross margin isn't any good. Look at these negative gross margins. I mean, we don't know what Ford's are, but I'm starting to agree with Larry that maybe they're negative, like Rivian and Lucid's are. I'm never going to buy any Rivian or Lucid stock while their financials look like this. I don't hold out any hope for the future of these companies unless they can quickly improve these gross margins by a lot. I mean, this is abysmal. This is as bad as you can do trying to make money selling cars. So, yeah, enough said about this graphic probably, but I liked that. The next thing that I liked came from Larry. We already saw this. Well, didn't we? I'm not sure we did, so I will read this. Ford only lost $2 billion on less than 90,000 EV production on 2 models in 22, and they plan to lose $3 billion in 2023. So this year, Ford plans to lose more money than they lost last year. Imagine the gross margin losses on EVs. They delivered a grand total. No, that's not gross margin. This is General Motors. Imagine how much General Motors is losing on EVs. They don't report, so we do have to imagine the EVs separately from the rest of the company. They delivered a grand total of 39,000 EVs in 2022 and plan on the massive scale of 80,000 over 9 models in 2023. They're running before walking. Disaster looms. Yeah. It's dumb to try to scale up 9 different EV models at the same time. It's smart to do it the way Tesla did. You roll out one new vehicle, one new model at a time, and every time you design, develop, implement, construct, sell those vehicles, you get a feedback loop and you learn from your customers and from your employees about how you can make the next generation better. So every new generation of Tesla vehicles builds on the experience, the knowledge, the understanding that came from the generations before. If you're trying to launch 9 different models all at one time, all at very low volume, you're guaranteed to lose a lot more money doing it that way and offer the public worse products in all likelihood. I mean, unless you have an amazing team that's building the product so well in the first place, you're not going to be able to improve it much later. Doubtful. Yeah, GM's in a lot of trouble. But I'm going to keep going. Here's one from Rune, at Rune_OVERAS. Yes, I 100% agree. Ford is very late. They could easily have been where they are today 5 years ago. I was the only person to like this tweet. Replying here with forward caps info to Rune's request. He requested, let's be fair and try and present the numbers Tesla had when selling 10,000, 50,000, 250,000. This is an important metric. If we are to compare Tesla with others, yes, others are late, but they are trying and some will succeed. Do you have these numbers, James? So I replied like this, sending forward caps info. I agree it makes sense to compare against Tesla when producing similar volumes as one of the comparisons you do, but that doesn't make the other comparison invalid. Ford has had more than a decade to plan their EV strategy, and they are late. So that's what I was liking, his reply there. We saw this one already. Here's one from K10. Oh, Loki's all fired up. What's going on, Loki? Buddy, are you hearing noises outside? All right, let's go investigate outside. Come on. Come on, buddy. Loki, come here. Come here, little one. Come on over. Yes. Okay, good boy. Let's check the door. Let's check the door and see what you're barking at. Nothing out here, buddy. There's nothing out here to bark at, okay? Alright. Okay, I got Loki under control, so he won't keep barking during our podcast telecast show. So what's K10's tweet say? Added text blurbs in the user interface to communicate upcoming maneuvers that FSD Beta plans to make. Yeah. Well, the Loki cam isn't doing anybody any good. I turn it around and set it right here on Loki. Yeah, that'll be good. Then above it, Alex A. Voigt tweeted, it has been confirmed by 2 independent sources that Giga Berlin produced 5,000 vehicles per week last week and is now at a run rate of 250,000 per annum per year. 50% of phase 1 capacity. So the design intent for the Giga Berlin building, the enormous Giga Berlin building, is that they'll be able to one day produce 500,000 vehicles from that original building, and that in the future they'll build another building where they'll have production output. So congrats, Team Berlin. Yeah, so you're on 2 different cameras, buddy. We've never done that before. And I'll scroll up to the next one here that I liked. Forward Cap said, example of a key competitive advantage. Tesla's Berlin factory reaches 5,000 per week production in 1 year. For context, Ford began making the Mach-E in Q4 2020 and is still making less than 3,000 per week. So yeah, Giga Berlin doing great in their ramp, and they will continue to ramp higher from there. Here's one from My Tesla Weekend at 4K Podcast. This is Brian tweeting, Tesla's run rate in Berlin is now higher than 2018 total Tesla production. So back in 2018, Tesla was still making less than 250,000 vehicles per year. Not even 5 years. The third/fourth factories are barely half ramped, that's true, yet at mad volume with industry-leading margins. Yeah. If you aren't excited, you're about to miss the boat again. At Tesla Best, at I cannot underscore enough, at Elon Musk. So he tagged me in this tweet, and I liked it, and said, fact check true, the math seems to check out. And My Tesla Weekend replied, uh-oh, does that make me a gem of the week? And I said, yes, it does. Yeah, it does. It makes you a gem of the week. Loki, do you want to eat your food now? All right. Well, I got to move the Loki cam then. So, there you go. Well, I got to figure out my cord situation. You're getting more of a tour of my place today than I had intended. But Loki did stop barking. Okay, buddy, you've got food here. If you want to eat your food, it's here for you, okay? There's some kibbles for you to get you started. All right, and up we scroll. I'll hit the back button and show you this Tesla Saves Lives tweet that I liked. Insane car crash ahead. The tire comes off this pickup right here and blows up this car. Watch. There it is. And that's what happens when a spinning tire in front of you on the road, goes under the undercarriage of your front bumper. It launches you into the air because that's just physics. That's how that goes. The tire and the car are both moving in the same direction. So, yeah, as long as that tire, wow, incredible. So, what did the Tesla that was trailing do? It dodged the tire. So, swerving to avoid that tire, as you can see, illustrated dramatically in front of you, is important. You do not want to hit a rolling tire. If you hit a rolling tire, a bad thing will happen to you. I just got to watch it one more time. And yeah, the Tesla dodges out of the way of the accident. So, really good tweet there. The next tweet that I liked came from James Locke at Arctech Inc. on Twitter. Done so many, but this was one of the largest I've done. From June 16th of 2019, James Locke shared a 10,000 mile crossing of the continental USA twice, and as far north as Hay River, Northwest Territories, Canada, north of the 60th parallel. What an incredible journey in a Tesla on the supercharging network as it existed already back in 2019. Most other automakers still don't have that network today. He zoomed out for a bigger scale on one of the tweets in that thread. But yeah, north of the 60th parallel means you are farther than 2/3 of the way from the equator to the North Pole. That's what being north of the 60th parallel is. Hay River, Northwest Territories, Canada, way, way up north. It's cold there, folks, in the winter. And I went out too far, so I have to go back now. Here's my likes. I don't have very far to scroll. Here it is. We've just got a few more tweets to go. Sawyer Merritt, breaking. Tesla has directly confirmed Berlin production output has reached 5,000 Model Ys per week. So, really good tweet here. And he chased it with these images of the celebration of the 5,000th Model Y. There it is. So, really cool couple of different angles there of everybody celebrating 5,000 Model Ys per week. And the next tweet I liked came from Roland Percher at PILOLY on Twitter. BEV bestseller models in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Spain combined year to date. Why those countries? Because those countries report registrations daily. Tesla Model Y is killing it. Yeah, year to date BEV sales in Europe by model. You know it's a fair comparison because these are the countries that are reporting every day. Tesla Model Y in first place, Tesla Model 3 in sixth place. That's not terrible. When you see who it's trailing, Volvo XC40, Volkswagen ID4, Skoda Enyaq, Volkswagen ID3, and then right after it, Kia EV6, Kia Niro, Volvo, Volkswagen, Peugeot, and then way down here we get to maybe the first comparable vehicle to a Tesla, the Audi Q4 e-tron. So, yeah, really, really strong numbers from Tesla and a good-looking chart, so I like that tweet. Here's another one from Larry Goldberg. What rubbish have completed 2 trips over 3,000 miles each over the last 6 months in my Tesla Model X. Average leg traveled far exceeds 200 miles with an electric bill less than 40% of the cost of gasoline, and the car drove itself the entire way each time. Who's he replying to? Charles Nungster, which sounds like the most bogus name I ever heard of. After Larry said he was roundly criticized in a closed forum for criticizing the Ford corporate EV strategy in their presser because Ford is currently earning $9 billion in profits, has gobs of cash on hand, and has a great runway to make the EV transition. My reply was lengthy, so I want to share it more widely here, publicly on Twitter, for feedback. Perhaps I need to be better educated. I may be wrong, but I haven't seen the analysis that makes sense yet. Here's my piece. When you start the race several miles behind, and you go slower out of the gate than the guy in front, and you set a leisurely pace, and the race is for all the marbles, it isn't going to end well. Yeah, Tesla has a huge head start, and Ford is not catching up. Within 3 years, the classic Ford business is going to be bleeding cash at an extraordinary rate because ICE sales are going to collapse eventually. Don't people, never mind astute analysts, see the rapid decay of the ICE business and their dealer networks? Yeah, Ford has the dealership problem Tesla never had to worry about. Those dealers want to sell things they can repair, and EVs don't need repairs. That's where the dealers are making most of their money from. So they're going to want to charge outrageous prices for the EVs to make them whole on the profit side, so their businesses don't get less profitable. Truth be told, the Ford networks are probably bleeding cash already. I'm very skeptical of the number allocations. Am I being told with a straight face Ford are expensing the capital of the plants they are building? If not, where in the world are those losses coming from? Who has done the heavy lifting of analyzing this nonsense? Well, you shouldn't expense capital. Like, you can do some accelerated tax depreciation when you buy capital, but without belaboring that point, you should only be expensing the current period's depreciation on the capital investments that you make. And so that hit may be bigger depending on the depreciation methodology. If you're using the straight line depreciation method over time, then yeah, those expenses are going to be large relative to your low production early in the life cycle before you've ramped up. And yes, it's going to make you look a lot more unprofitable having that depreciation hit in such big chunks when you're still at low volume. But if you're using the units produced method of depreciation, then no, it shouldn't be a problem. If you're saying, hey, we built a factory that is going to produce 10 million units, So we're going to distribute the depreciation evenly across 10 million units produced. No, that shouldn't be a bigger problem for you early in the ramp than it will be later. The losses assigned to the EV business are highly improbable, even though they are being accepted without question by the so-called analysts. I can't square the numbers. Amazing how traditional investment analysts buy Ford's improbable forward-looking statements, but are so skeptical of those provided by Tesla. That's true, yeah. They don't believe Tesla when Tesla gives guidance. Now, Tesla is late sometimes, so I'm okay with the analysts discounting Tesla's timelines some. But yeah, for them to lap up every other automaker's predictions of how many they're going to sell in which year, they've made a lot of wrong predictions too. They're pretty late as well. We're being told by analysts that we don't understand. They've been preaching that sermon since 2017, and the lessons are not learned. Yeah, Tesla has been making a lot more money, and everybody else isn't. The competition has not been coming, and they're not showing any good reason to believe they're coming now. There are going to be some spectacular bankruptcies, and many Western governments are going to intervene, pouring enormous amounts of taxpayer money down a bottomless pit. Yeah, so especially in the US, especially in Germany, especially in Japan, that's a lot of especiallys, isn't it? Governments are beholden to their auto industry. The laggardsy automakers in those countries, they don't want to see lots and lots of their nation's workforce get laid off when these companies go bankrupt. So probably we will see giant government bailouts of a few of these companies. So what did Charles Nungster say? EV fad will end as quick as it started. Trust me. You want to make a 500-mile trip each way and stop 10 times to charge at $20 a pop? Yeah, so that is the rubbish that Larry called it. So I like that tweet. Another tweet from Technostic that I like. Notice that you responded to me. Oh, we already read that one. And another tweet from Larry that I just liked. So that's it. That's this week's episode. Loki never ate his kibbles. Let me put this back over here and raise it up some. Well, it doesn't matter. It's the end of the video. But there's Loki hanging out in bed, laying down, instead of eating his breakfast. And I will outro and say, if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, how is that? You're a Patreon supporter. You should have been subscribed to my channel already. But if you're not, there's the button. Thank you to all of you who support me. I appreciate your support, and especially those who joined my YouTube channel. As my executive producers, Kathy Kitchler and Halter Ferguson Financial did at the highest support tier, earning them executive producer thank yous at the end of every video, and I'll see you in the next one.